Sunday morning, everyone. Hopefully it's Sunday. Oh yeah, it's Sunday. I'm gonna wait a few minutes to get started because I am finishing an Instacart order. Hold on one second. Alright, I apologize about that. Welcome to coffee time. I'm actually streaming for the first time on Twitch. And I have this streaming on Facebook as well, so this will be different.
Sierra, message, verdict, 42,278.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I probably should have finished this before starting the stream, but we gotta wait for some people to come in anyways. Okay. How's everyone doing today? Wow, tonight? I haven't had my coffee yet. A brand new cup of coffee right here. I hope it allows me to read comments. Again, this is the first time I'm streaming for on more than one platform. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Alright, well, if anyone's in the chat, please let me know you're here. Say hello, show your support. Anyways, I do coffee times on my YouTube channel a lot. Sometimes I'll have a topic that I really want to talk about. Like today, I want to share a little bit of my story. You know, losing my sight to now. But I was just waiting for a minute for some people to come in. Thank you all for being here. If anyone's here. I'm still getting used to the live streaming, also the settings and everything. It's always hard when you're visually impaired to get used to a website because you're going off of completely, you know, not seeing, you're going off of audio. Okay, there we go. Hey, don't eat the cat food. So, I grew up in California all of my life. I have a sister, and I'm the youngest. My dad passed away in 2010, and so I just have my mom left. I have 3 kids who are 18, 13, and 10. 2 boys and a girl. And they're awesome kids. Currently, I make gemstone bracelets to try to make ends meet and support my family because a blind person has more than a tough time trying to find a quote-unquote regular job. And it's because, I won't get too much into it, but it's because it's society and employers, people not being educated when it comes to visually impaired in our capabilities or abilities. They just focus on the disability. They're lost, really. I've tried since I was 18 to get some sort of job, and really hardcore tried when I became pregnant with my first son at 19. It's been a struggle, and it's really frustrating because you go through all these trainings as a blind person, even some of which are sort of common knowledge, common sense, and can be somewhat insulting because it's basic stuff that you should know, common courtesy and customer service and just all these things. So there's the Department of Rehab, which is an organization that is put together to apparently help us find a job or continue schooling. Now, when you want to go to school, they do help with that, I will say that. But as far as job search, I feel like I've had more luck on my own, which I've been doing for a long time, finding jobs and getting interviews. A lot of times they tell you basic stuff, but what the DOR or Department of Rehab does, I feel, in my opinion, is they put us in a hamster's wheel. And it's like the reason I say that is, in a hamster's wheel, you run in place, right? You're not getting anywhere. And it feels like all of the little exercises they have us do, all of the little trainings they have us do, is just to cover themselves. Because there are several times where I've repeated certain trainings and I won't do it anymore because it's tiring. Here I am, 38 years old with an 18-year-old son. I think I've been through a lot of life, not saying I know it all, but enough life to know to be courteous when you answer a phone. It's really not helpful to us, this organization, in my opinion. It is when it comes to schooling, so maybe it should just be for that, because you have to fight for it sometimes, but they can help to provide you with the assistive technology or equipment that you need to succeed in college or school. Oh wait, I think we have somebody in the comments. Hey, in darkness, good morning. Or whatever time of day it is for you. Yes, always good time for some coffee. So, it's really frustrating when it comes to programs that are supposed to be for us, because I'm not being negative or unreal, but they don't help. There are some good counselors who attempt to, but they're few and far in between. A lot of them are just sitting behind a desk and receiving a paycheck from the government. I've always been one to want to work and want to do for myself and grow, not stay on government assistance, because trust me, I'm not rolling in dough. And I'm a single mom trying to get by, and no, I don't receive child support, oodles of child support, so people might also think that. And I guess the reason I'm going here is because people have said that they wish they could sit on their you-know-what and receive a check. That's not how life works for some of us. Some of us want to grow. Some of us don't want to stay. We're not complacent with a small check. I can't even say that it helps tremendously because I still have to make ends meet. As far as SSI goes, I still have to make ends meet because, well, the cost of living goes up, but our paycheck doesn't. So I started making gemstone bracelets, and it's a passion of mine. I love it, loving the meanings of the stones, the healing, the spiritual side of it, which has been an interest of mine for a long time, but I just started making them back in November. So anyways, let's rewind. When I was a baby, they knew something was wrong with my eyes, but they weren't sure what it was. They were running a lot of tests on me. I think that's why I have this phobia of blood draws, because I am such a baby. Like, I could have babies with no pain medicine, but no blood draws without wanting to faint. So they knew something was wrong. They didn't know what. I think it's because my eyes move. I have something called nystagmus, where my eyes move, and it can be embarrassing, sometimes uncomfortable. As I get older, I care less about the embarrassing part, because I'm just like, oh well, this is me. Nothing I can do about it, really. But growing up, losing your sight, you go through a lot. Like, first of all, it's traumatic losing your sight, but I think I handled it pretty well for a 10-year-old. So anyways, they ran a lot of tests, including sticking needles in the eye, lots of blood tests. There was a point where I was 3 years old, and my mom was like, enough is enough, because I was going through so much testing. She was like, this is too much, like she couldn't watch me go through that anymore when it was just my vision, not just, but like, they try to tell her that she should continue the testing. If she doesn't, then she's gonna not prevent a whole lot of other problems. They tried to say that I wouldn't grow, which I guess is kind of true because I'm only 5 feet. But they tried to tell her that a whole lot of other things could happen if she doesn't continue the testing, but she stuck to her guns and she didn't believe that. So I did still see eye doctors for years to come. I just didn't go through that crazy amount of testing. I mean, it was ridiculous. And to this day, I really, really dread going to the eye doctors, except I have a good eye doctor now, I will say. She is amazing. I've had a lot of bad experiences with eye doctors, from them just being extremely rude and insensitive. And I'm not saying that they have to be like, huggy or anything like that, but if someone who's losing their sight, especially a little kid, is asking questions, I don't think it's necessary to be, rude. So, I remember playing video games. I remember colors. I remember the faces of my mom and dad and my sister, some of my cousins. The last person I remember seeing was my baby niece, who was born when I was 10. I remember her little beady eyes, and I remember how gorgeous and cute she was, and how happy I was, because no longer did I have to play with baby dolls, because I had my little baby niece. So, thankfully, growing up, my parents, yes, they try to protect me and shelter me in some ways, but for the most part, I was still, how do I say this, allowed to be just a kid. They showed me how to cook, they let me be in the kitchen and help just like you would any other child. And I'm thankful for that, because now I have, those skills, and they didn't try to say, oh no, she can't do this because she can't see, because that's ridiculous. But truthfully, some people are just not prepared. I mean, how can you be for a kid with a visual impairment or any disability? But I've always wanted to do things on my own, try, be independent, you know what I mean? I had trouble when it comes to mobility for a long time. I never wanted to take buses. I still don't alone because I had a few situations where I was groped on the bus twice in my life, and I can talk about those things now, whereas before I couldn't. But that's the reason I won't take a bus alone. The first time I was sitting on a bus and some boy sat on me and then he grabbed me, so I was scared. And then the second time, pretty much a similar situation happened. So I just won't take the bus. Like, if I'm alone. I think that was part of the reason I had and got a guide dog in the beginning, and then just a whole lot of other stuff happened, and there's a lot of things to go through to get these things in place. So anyway, then moving forward, like throughout high school, I was really sad because I was alone a lot of the time. I didn't have many friends until maybe 11th grade is where I met my friends Ingrid and Diana. And that's when I started, like, you know, even then though they were a little bit older than me. So I was alone a lot of the time, and I hated going to school. I dreaded it. There was a lot of kids that were mean to me, even teachers that were really cruel. And I don't know, with the mindset I have now, it wouldn't have bothered me like it did then, but my stomach literally would be in knots every day going to school, knowing that at breaks, nutrition, and lunch, I'd be sitting alone. It was crazy too, because like sometimes if a boy was interested in me, I would hear them. They would be talking behind me and saying, "Oh man, she's cute," or this or that. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, but she's blind." And that alone would just be like, well, I'm still a girl, still me, but they didn't know that. So it sucked. It really did. Then towards the end of my high school year, probably the end of 11th grade, beginning of 12th grade, my dad started getting really sick. He had 5 heart attacks, which he survived. So I missed a lot of school, and I didn't want to go to school for many reasons. One being that I hated going. I mean, if teachers are even not so nice to you, you don't want to go. Thanks in darkness. But you can feel so alone, and that's one of the reasons. Oh, I'll get back to that. But you can feel so alone in school, especially without your sight, and you feel like there's no one to turn to, there's no one to talk to. Let me give you an example of what a teacher did one time. So one day we got to school early, and the classroom door was locked. No. Yeah, early. It was pretty early. The classroom door was locked. No one was there yet, and so a friend and I were waiting. We weren't close, but she was a really cool girl. Her name was Mary. And she's like, "Oh, the lights are off. I don't think that no one's in there yet." And I'm like, all right. So we wait. We're talking. Nothing. The bell rings. The second bell rings, and the door doesn't open. We're knocking on the door. Nothing. So finally, the door opens. The teacher's in there, and there is a classroom full of kids. I don't know if people just got there early, if they knew something was going on, but her and I obviously didn't know. And so she's like, "Well, you guys got to go to the dean. You're going to have to have detention for being late." And we're like, okay. Take in mind, Mary was a really good student as well. Like, just, I don't know. But anyway, so whatever. She gives us this paper, I forget what they call it, but you have to go to the lunch area where the deans are and basically tell them, hey, I was late, now I gotta get detention. So fortunately, he saw us there already, and he was like, no, you guys weren't late, I saw you here, and I saw you go to your classroom. And we're like, well, the teacher blah blah blah. So he signed something. He's like, don't even worry about detention. So we went back to the room. When we walk in, she's like, so Cecilia, and everyone's quiet, mind you, so I'm center of attention. She's like, so Cecilia, how does it feel to be treated like everyone else? And I'm thinking, lady, you don't know what I go through on a day-to-day basis. Do you think my life is handed to me on a silver platter and it's easy being blind and it's like a gift from God to, have... I don't know what she thought, but I was speechless, and I just sat down, and I just couldn't believe she had said that to me. So I sat down, and at that time, I didn't have all my Braille books yet, because some had to be ordered still. So, English was my favorite subject, and that's the class that was, first period, English. One of the classes where I met my ex. We'll get to that, too. I didn't have all my Braille books, but I loved English. Like, English, to this day, I love English. I love writing. I love stories. I love all of that. So she would tell me, you just don't want to do your work. And I'm like, no, I don't have my Braille books. So for her to leave me alone, I used to have this little Braille machine that I would type on. It was really small. I forgot what it was called. I think it was called a Braille Mate. Anyways, I would be typing on there and just really journaling or whatever. And then we had someone called a resource teacher, where people with visual impairments or other disabilities can go to that classroom, and if you need materials or you need assistance with something, that's where you go. So I was telling the teacher there about it, who I adore. His name's Mr. Key. He was literally there for all of us. And so I would tell him about all of these. Hey, Cookie. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. So I would tell him about the things that she would say, and so he had to talk to her and say, in actuality, she doesn't have her Braille books yet, so this really isn't by choice. So there was another teacher, a Spanish teacher, who kind of treated me the same way, a little worse actually. And I would always, even though I was really shy and scared because of so much that happened, I would reach out to other students and see, like, we had something called, I think it was called NCR paper, where there's a white and yellow sheet, and they can write on the white and it'll go through to the yellow. So I would take that with me, and in Spanish class, we had an agenda on the board. You'd have to write that down because it included the classwork, the homework, and whatever other extra stuff we were supposed to do. So I would always ask someone to do that. Sometimes they were okay with it, sometimes they weren't. But again, the teacher was just like, again, I didn't have my books. The teacher was just like, you are not trying to do your work. And she was really mean. Like, she was always making comments, like, all the time. To finally, I couldn't take it anymore. And I told my parents. They were really upset because I would hold it in. I would try to deal with it as much as possible before telling my parents or another teacher. And that was the wrong thing, but I thought it was the right thing. Because my mentality, even to this day, sometimes, I'm getting better at it, is make it easier for others. Well, sometimes you gotta make it easier for yourself. And I never put myself first, even then. So finally, I told Mr. Key and I told my parents what was going on, and all three of them were really furious because I was being called out in front of the class. I was being talked down upon like I was just this troublesome kid. And I'm not talking bad about any kids. We all have our troubles, but you know what I mean. Like I was giving problems, and as if I wasn't going through enough. So we had to have a meeting, and that crap was ridiculous. So we go to the classroom, my mom, my dad, and my teacher, Mr. Key, and I. The teacher comes out of the classroom. We're standing there. It's not like a sit-down meeting. We're all outside the classroom. And Mr. Key starts, asking about the comments, what's going on, and starts explaining that my books are on the way, but they haven't got there yet. And, it was a bit of a big, like a large textbook, so in Braille that could take some time at the time. I don't know how it works now. Hold on 1 second. Hey, sorry about that. My groceries came. So, where was I? Let me see if there's any comments. Hey, Jordan, welcome to the stream. All right, cool. So, yeah, I remember. We were outside talking to the teacher, and she has the nerve to say, she puts her arm around me and says, "Oh, Cecilia and I are friends. She could ask me for anything." And I'm just like, this is such bullshit. You know damn well you don't treat me like that in class. And literally, it wasn't even like, I'm not saying that I needed them to be sensitive and treating me like a baby or anything, but they were wrong as teachers. Even looking back on it, I wouldn't have accepted that for my kids. And so that's why my parents and my teacher were there that day, and it was just too much. I mean, this had been going on for a while, and she had the nerve to say we were friends and I can talk to her about anything. I just like, this is some shit. So I guess it was okay after that, because I don't remember really much of anything after that with her. Plus, high school was just ridiculous. It's hard for kids as it is anyway, and then to have a disability on top of that, to feel singled out all the time and to be alone all the time can do something to you. Some people handle it well. I didn't. It was a struggle for me. Anyways, I met my kid's father when I was 17, towards the end of, it was like the middle of the year. We met, we talked, I talked, and then I really liked him a lot in the beginning. It was very, I don't know. I'm attracted to people who, I don't know how to put this to make it sound right. I really admired people that had a strong intellect, that knew what they were talking about, or at least I thought they did. And still to this day, who can have conversation, who, that's like one of the things. Now the biggest thing for me is having a gold heart, like having a good heart, So we were in English class, and he had recited something that was like, it was an acronym, and he had of his name, and he had to describe himself in each letter of his name, like whatever. So yeah, I was impressed by that. Stupid. Not really. I mean, that's how things are. So long story short, we talked a couple of times when he helped to take me to another class. And then Mary, the same girl that was waiting for me outside of the classroom, let him know that I really liked him. He didn't believe it, but then I guess he realized I did. And then there was a few girls who tried to sway me away from him. I think it was more of a race thing. He's black or African American, and the girls were, and they didn't want me to talk to him, and it was really clear. So anyways, as time went on, we talked more, and then that grew, and at 19 I had my first, I was pregnant. At 20 I had my first son, and then we had a long relationship, good and crazy, because you're young adults, and that happens. we had a lot of ups and downs. He was, I hate dating sites because he would look for people on them, and we would break up. He would see other people. We would get back together. He would talk to girls on the internet, you know, young stuff, I guess. I think that the hardest situation was when I was 5 months pregnant and he told me he was in love with someone else. It did take a lot, I guess, for him to be honest, because he wanted to put a barrier so he wouldn't do anything. But I tried to handle it because I wanted to hold my family together, like I did for a lot of things. But that hurt big time. And it was a girl he worked with, and I really liked her. We were friends. And so that happened. I tried to handle that best I could. We were very young, 24, 25. And that wasn't the first time with a girl, but that was a big one because I was pregnant. And he told me that, and yeah, I commend him for being honest, to be honest. Was I happy about it? No. But a lot of people wouldn't tell you. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's what happened. And I knew already, I swear, I always felt like I had this intuition or something, because I would always find out. Something would always come to me, and I believe it's God, somehow, some way, even if someone didn't tell me directly, I would find out, or I felt it. My intuition was really strong. So yeah, he told me he loved someone else, and that, of course he loved me and didn't want to leave, and just, had to handle it or deal with it his own way. It hurt every day, him going to that job and knowing he was going to be around her. It really hurt, and he would emotionally be affected by her during that time, and so it affected me in turn, and that happened. And so yeah, that was in my where were we? Second apartment, and I can't remember. Oh yeah. Okay, so I had my daughter. That was in 2007. Still looking for a job, still job hunting, even during my pregnancy, trying to find ways to make more money, because I was unhappy with just the SSI. It just wasn't enough for me, it just felt it just wasn't enough. So a lot of the times I had to do contract or 1099 forms for a job. So I was never an employee, but a contractor, and they never lasted long. I never made more than $300 or $400 off of those things, so I'd have to find a few at a time, and that was a challenge. Let's see. So during this time, there was a lot going on always. My dad in and out of the hospital, being sick. Then he got more sick towards, I would say, I think my daughter was around 2 when he started getting very, very sick. We moved back to the valley because we lived in Palmdale. All right, fast forward. I was raised all over LA in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up pretty much in Sylmar, Pacoima. My grandma lived in Pacoima, so we were always with her. Sylmar and Northridge, all those places. That's where I grew up. I lived in Hollywood for a very short time when I was around 10. And that's something I wanted to share too. When I was 1.5, we met our landlords, Bobby and Cliff, who are on my Facebook now. Well, Bobby is, and most of her kids are. She was like a second mom. She was like a second family, and immediately we all got close. So we met. That was in the Valley on a street called, I want to say Willis. Can't remember. But she made sure that we always had an apartment. So if she switched buildings, because she was the manager, if she switched buildings, she would get us into the next building. And my dad would always work as a security guard or a maintenance man there. My mom was working at the hospital, because my parents were very hardworking people before a lot of tragedy struck. My dad. So we got to know her, and we're like family, literally. Like, as the years went on, we were there for Christmases, part of Christmases, and you know, she would invite us over for dinner so many nights. She made sure we were good, all of us, when, you know, times were hard. She was always there. Never forget that. Making cookies in Christmas, and she was just there, like, unbelievably there. And that really helped me in losing my sight, having them around. Thanks, in darkness. Yes, my coffee. It's super good right now, too. I'm checking the comments real quick. So, yeah, we met Bobby and her family. I loved that they were in our lives because they helped so much. She got me my first dog when I was 10. So when I was losing my sight, I got my first dog, Silly. She has lots of opso, and Bobby actually adopted her. She was already about 5 years old. She was an abused dog. And so at first she didn't, and I mean, for a very short time she didn't trust us. But she quickly learned that she would be spoiled rotten and nothing but love would be pouring out. And she was a really smart dog. Like, for an example, I'll go back to the story, but this dog is amazing. So we never taught her that I couldn't see. We never trained her on anything like that. But this dog knew. When we were walking on sidewalks, she would walk between the grass and I, or the street and I, and make sure that I didn't, as little as she was, she would make sure I didn't step off. She was always just very protective, extremely protective. One day, my dad was in a panic because he couldn't find Silly, and Silly was my world, you know. I think she seriously helped me during my sight loss. He couldn't find Silly, and I was at school. So I was on the way home. I got home. Well, I got home. The bus stop was at the corner of our house. So my dad gets there, and apparently he had been looking for her all day. You know where this dog was? She was sitting there on the corner, leash in mouth, waiting for my bus. I mean, how'd she even get out of the house? But she knew, and she waited for me. So when I was sick, I remember when I would have fever, she would lay next to me, she would cry. And she was just my little partner during that time. Like, she literally helped me through. Anyways, where was I? Let's see. Fast forwarding back to adulthood. Ugh. So, that's right. All right, so we moved. I got my first apartment when I was 23. We were living with my ex's family for a little bit. My brother, who I call my brother, I love him, adore him. We lived with him, his mom, and us. And so it was time to part ways. We were all ready to move out, and so I ended up, was like, you know, I also wanted us to grow, so I was like, it's time, you know. And so we found an apartment. My mom and I went and we talked to the managers and did whatever we had to do. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. We got it. It was Palmdale. And I moved out on my 23rd birthday. So it was just us three, me, Akira, and my ex. And we lived there for a while. Then when my daughter was... Yeah, that was moving back a little bit because my son was 3.5 years old then. I had him when I was 20. Oh, he was almost 3, now that I think about it, because I was turning 23. Yeah. So, we lived there for a little bit. Then in 2007, I had a feeling I was pregnant. I always know, even before my body tells me. I just feel something, like I just know. And then I started getting the signs, and then I was stressing out because it was a 1-bedroom, and we needed more space. So we moved into a 2-bedroom apartment then. I had my little girl, our little girl, and stayed there for about 2 years. Then that's when my dad was getting really sick, so we all moved together back to the San Fernando Valley. Meanwhile, my ex and I were going through things up and down, separating, getting back together. That happened a lot. So we moved back to the valley. I found a townhouse, a tri-level townhome. And I was so happy. It was in Chatsworth, a beautiful part of the valley, right? So I found this townhome. It was a 3-bedroom tri-level townhome. And oh man, I wish I had the money. I would still own that. I would own that if I could. So I'm excited. We found this place. My dad's really sick. He could be near his doctors, you know. And so we move in there. And then we kind of reunite, and my brother moves in. Well, we all moved in together at that point. And so let's see what happens. So that was in November of 2009. And 2 days after moving in, all of our stuff from Palmdale, 2 days after, I get a knock at the door, and there's an HOA and a homeowner, a bank broker at the door saying, "Honey, don't unpack your stuff. This place is being foreclosed on." I had already given these people, not the ones that came to the door, obviously, but actually, this was the bank that came to the house. The people that I signed the contracts with and gave the money to were HOA, someone from the HOA, and a realtor. So I had also given them $3,600 to move in. Money that I couldn't just come by. I had to save. And so they're like, "Honey, do not unpack your bags. And you guys are going to have to get out because this place is being foreclosed on. Should have never been rented out to you." And mind you, this lady from the HOA was talking to me like the one that we signed the contracts with was talking to me like she totally understood. She said her mom was visually impaired and she's so proud that I'm doing things on my own, trying to blah blah blah. Yeah. So my best friend Rochelle, her dad's a realtor. Oh yeah, my best friend Rochelle I met when I was 5. We met in elementary, by the way. And she's seen it all, everything I've been through. She's been there for everything. Anyways, we talked to her dad. Her dad's a realtor. And did I say that already? And he basically said, you have renter's rights. You signed a contract. They have to give you at least 90 days to get out of there. So we went by that. And did I pay rent still? I think I still paid rent. And it was too good to be true because just thinking back on it, it was only $1,400 a month. That even then was unreal for that area of the valley. It's like, I don't know, like more well-off people live there. Oh, another friend of mine, Courtney, her parents lived like down the street from there at the time. So anyways, during the 3 months, here I am searching for a new place. It was really hard. And my dad was getting very sick. His health was really going downhill by this point. February of that following year, so we moved in November. February we had to move out. But during that time, my dad talked to my sister and I on the phone and said that he had cancer in his liver and that he wouldn't be here long. She says she doesn't remember that call, but I remember that call like yesterday. So that was in February. I found a place in Canoga Park, a 2-bedroom apartment. And my mom and dad, myself, my ex, and my 2 little ones at the time. It was before my 3rd was born, Aiden. We all moved in there. And yeah, that's where things started to fall apart even more. My dad passed away in 2010. My ex and I were going through issues. I believe he was talking to another girl at work. And we were just going through it. And at around probably 5 months pregnant, we split up again. And I was told I would end up blind and alone, and that's what happened. That's exactly what happened now. But anyway, I mean, blind was inevitable. I've been blind since I was 10, but we really went through it. And I'm not saying this to talk bad about him, just telling my story. So let's see. I was at that point. Oh, rewind. My ex found me a job of being a phone sex operator in 2010, and that was a little before my dad passed. So I was happy because I actually did land it. It was not something I was proud of, but now I don't care as much. But then I was shy, I was, for the most part, for that, and that wasn't something that. Hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. I was just checking comments. So, let's see, where was I? I can't remember where I was. Oh, okay. So, 5 months pregnant. Oh yeah, before that. So I started the job in June. I did report it to SSI, so I don't know why they say I didn't, but I did. Because I was always paranoid about my income. I never wanted to jeopardize the income of my, for my family, because we needed it. So I started in June, found out I was pregnant for sure in July with Aiden, my 3rd child. And August, my dad passed away. And around September-ish, no, October, November, I can't remember, but I was 5 months along. We had broken up. We were going through a lot of arguing, and don't get me wrong, we did have a lot of good times. Like, we had good times as well in there. But yeah, let's see. So around 5 months that happened. I'm trying to remember between that time and when I had my son. Oh, so the job, I was working graveyard. I would start at night, 10 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. I couldn't leave the phone. Like, I had to hold the phone to my ear. I have a video about that too. It's called my time as a PSO or something like that. So I worked graveyard, had to hold the phone to my ear, and I was pregnant during this time. So around 5 months is when I started to fall asleep almost by morning. It was hard to keep the graveyard, so they let me do a day position, which I really didn't want to do with that type of work because I didn't want anyone hearing what I was doing. Like when I started, we had one of those air conditioning units that were on the wall, the ones that are in apartments, they're like on the wall. I would turn that on full blast. So that would drown me out, along with hiding under a blanket to do my job. Just for the record, I don't care anymore about judgment. I used to, but it helped me get all of my baby stuff. It helped when my dad passed away and we had extra money for what we needed, like funeral expenses and different things. It helped keep the lights on. I've always been a determined person. Have I always made the right choices? No, not perfect. But I always tried to be Hi, Whistler. Hand Darkness. I didn't see any comments before. Well, I didn't see any of the comments, but I didn't hear any of your comments before that one, if that's why you're asking. All right. So as, let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. So I was doing that job, and 5 months along, they moved me to days. I never had the kids in the room. I always had the door locked and hidden in the corner, or, as I started to get more comfortable with it, I wouldn't have the blanket over my head. I just knew how to use my voice. So a lot of those calls were not always sexual. A lot of them were like someone wanting a friend to talk to. And I remember 2 men in particular that would call for that. One of them used to be in the service, and he was then disabled. He actually rescued a couple of his brothers, or, they not blood brothers, but brothers from being in service together. And he talked a lot about that time. And he was trying to raise his girls and going through a custody thing. I mean, they literally told me stories about their lives. And there was this older man who I really enjoyed talking to. He would always talk about his grandkids, or nothing sexual. It would just always be about his life experience. And so there were some calls like that. And I would even tell them, I said, there's chat lines where you could call and you won't get charged for it. And I remember the older man was like, yeah, but you're not there. And I'm like, no. I used to do chat lines, I won't lie. Like, that's how, like for blind people, it's harder to socialize. Like, we can't just go out to the clubs and blah, 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 like, alone anyway. I mean, we could. Just depends on how, bold you are. But that's how I socialized and stuff. And it wasn't the greatest. I really don't have any good experiences from that. But it kept me busy when I needed to be. So, anyways, I worked that job until I delivered, pretty much. Like, I think it was a week before I delivered when I told them I had to go on maternity leave. And they were so mean. That company, they were called Boulevard Entertainment. That company was cruel. I would have the collars on for long hold times. I was one of their best operators. No shame here. It is what it is. It happened. I was one of their best operators, and I would keep people on for hours. Like, literally. And so when I was, when I was pregnant, like I said, you had the phone to your ear. And if I had to pee, you know how the baby jumps on your bladder like a trampoline? Like, I would have to go pee, and I would tell them, I have to put the phone down. They're like, no, sorry, you cannot do that. You cannot have a break until your numbers go up. So I started taking the phone to the bathroom if I had to pee. I just put the phone on mute because I was pregnant. Like, I had to pee. It's okay, Jordan. Do what you need to. So at around, so 9 months I had my baby boy. it's funny. Oh, before I did that, we were going to have a baby shower, but I didn't know that. My sister was just asking me, like, what do you want for the baby? Can I get the swing? Can I get the crib? Can I get this, that, and the other? And I'm just like, I already got it. She's all, what the am I supposed to get for you then? And at that time I had, that job. So I was able to, like, you know how I am with babies. I love babies, and my own, oh my goodness. So I had got him like everything that he needed, like the big things. And I was just like, clothes would be fine. So anyways, let's see. I went into labor. They actually induced me because my due date came, and I had actually asked them to induce me because I was getting too big, and it just hurt too much. His due date was the 16th of March, and they induced me on that day. That was the hardest labor ever, and the only one that I received an epidural for, and I was terrified. That situation was hilarious. So, not the pain. This kid put me through it, I'm telling you. So 5 a.m. in the morning, they start the induction, being induced, and they, start everything. And it was the worst pain ever because I believe they induced me in 2 ways. There was the Pitocin that they put in your arm, and then there's something that they put down there that helps you efface faster. So that was all going on really, really fast. So by around 1:25 in the afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. Like, I tried. I wanted no medicine at all whatsoever. I barely had any medicine with my first son. I had nothing with my daughter. But this one, oh man, by 1:25, they were pretty much begging me and telling me to take something. And I was very stubborn. I didn't want to. So at 1:25, finally I was like, yes, please get me any and everything, all of it, bring it. So they said, okay, we're gonna call the lady that does the epidural. And I felt like she was taking for fucking ever, like forever. And I'm like, where is she? I'm like, she's probably chit-chatting in the halls. And they're like, no, I don't think she's chit-chatting in the halls. And I was like, well, she's not here yet. I just remember screaming, and like, it was horrible. So she finally came, and I had some of the sweetest nurses, and my doctor was amazing. Like, I will never forget Kevin. He was amazing. He let me do what I wanted. He knew that I was comfortable with my body and pregnancy and things. So he let me make a lot of the choices. I'll get to that. So one of the nurses comes. I sit up. They have me sit up and kind of bend over, like kind of lean over, because they need to put the, oh my God, that needle in your back at the right position. Any movement could be dangerous, and that was a fear of mine, like being blind and not being able to move. And I know people live with that, and I'm sorry for saying that, but I was afraid of that. I was afraid of losing my ability to walk or anything, because they tell you there's a possibility of paralysis. And so anyways, during the excruciating, crazy amount of pain, I'm kind of hunched over, and this nurse hugs me, like she's hugging me, and that made me want to cry too. I'm like, this is so sweet. She's like, you can do this. You've come this far. She's like, I need you to stay still. And she's literally hugging me while which I still find like this so sweet. That always makes me emotional, because it felt like she was family. It's so weird. So they put the epidural in, and boom, I felt nothing. I just felt pressure. And I know that there's a window where they can and can't do it. And anyways, so they did that at 1:25, and Aiden, after like so many pushes, it was so hard to push him out. He was born at 2:48, and so when I was pushing him, he wasn't coming out, and I was tired. And the doctor was like, all right, he knew I didn't want this. He was like, all right, time to get the vacuum. I'm like, no. I got it. He's all, you're the boss. And then he comes back over, and I pushed him out. And honestly, it was scary because the cord was wrapped around Aiden's neck. And he hurried up and got that off. We didn't even know that that was happening. He hurried up and got that off, pulled him out, and he was fine. He was crying. He knew who I was. He lifted his head. He was looking for me. Same with my daughter. When my daughter came out, now she had no drugs in her at all because I took absolutely nothing with her. And she was my biggest baby. And she didn't want to come out either because I was trying to push her out, and she was actually laying on her side with her thumb in her mouth. And she was just not wanting to come out. So when I pushed her out, she was also, they said she was staring at me. My ex took a video of us when I had her. And she was my 8-pound baby, my biggest baby. So, all right. Then, let's see. Oh, and I remember finding out she was a girl. May 23rd, 2007. My mom took me to my ultrasound. And I found out I was having a girl that day. And that was one of the happiest days of my life. Like, literally one of the happiest days of my life. And I was happy for my boys too, but I was like, it's weird because I knew what each kid of mine was before it was confirmed. I know that sounds crazy, but trust me, I did. Okay, so let's see. Fast forward back to my last child, my baby boy, Aiden. I just remember laying in the hospital room. I had him. That was like the toughest labor in the world. Well, it felt like. And I was calling God. I was calling my dad. I was yelling for anyone. My dad had been gone by that point. My dad passed away when I was just 2 months pregnant. And the day before he passed, I told him I was pregnant with my third child. And by that time, he wasn't as responsive. So the crazy thing was, I sat on his bed. He was in the hospital. I sat on his bed and I told him I'm going to have another baby. And he lifted his arms and he was like, "Oh, right." He was like, he loved his grandchildren a lot. And I really wish that he would have got to know Aiden. But he loved all 7 of his grandchildren. All right, so let me move forward. I had him that day in the hospital. Was interesting. I remember having him, and then I remember my ex and I got in an argument there, which is crazy. I know he was upset because none of my older son's teachers knew him, and my daughter wasn't in school yet. But yeah, so that happened. Then, let's see. I got out of there, the hospital. Where did we live at the time? Oh, I had moved to... No, I was still in Canoga Park. Still in the same apartment, the 2-bedroom apartment, where we moved when we couldn't live in the townhouse anymore. So then we moved when Aiden was 6 months old. We were broken up again, and my mom, myself, Aiden, Ayani, and Akira, and at the time I only had 1 cat and a dog. So Skittles, who's still around to this day, our 15-year-old cat, who my ex found under a car, and he was a baby, and he was like abandoned. You could like see his ribs, and so we took him in. That was in 2006. So when Aiden was 6 months old, exactly on the day, September 16th, we moved to Palmdale. We found a house, a 4-bedroom house, okay, like a front yard, a backyard, and man, I miss that house so much. I really miss that house. Sorry, my eye itches. We lived there for 6 years. My ex came in 2012. Then we got back together for a while. And just some craziness during that time in that house. Then we had to move out. It was crazy that year. So the manager started telling us that they didn't know if they wanted to sell the house or whatever. I remember him asking me, is there a way you guys could find a place soon? And I'm like, no. I didn't even have the money like that. Like, on my income, you know, it just was hard. And then my mom's, like, my mom got paid for helping me. And so, you know, but it was very little, it was minimal. And she pretty much had, you know, paid her car with that or did what she could. But my mom's been there from day one, helping us getting the kids to school, helping with school clothes, school supplies. My parents, my family has always been there to help us. And just always. So 2016. So this is when they told us, well, we don't know if we're going to rent or sell the house, so you got to move out. And they wanted us out in August, right? And they told us this in July. There was no way, and plus that's against renters' rights. You have at least 60 days. So we had to go to court. We ended up winning. They had to merit the, you know, the time. So by October 9th, we still couldn't find a place, and we were homeless in 2016. My ex had moved back to Vegas, or moved to Vegas with his mom, and we were searching for a place during that time. So from October 9th, I'm trying to remember, October 9th of 2016 to April of 2017, we were homeless. We were going from hotels to staying at my cousin's house, and it was really, really hard during that time. In December of that year, I lost my grandmother. We lost her. In March of that year, we lost my younger cousin. He was battling depression. He was only 26 years old. His name was Brandon, and that's crazy. So that all happened. Aiden just started his first year of school, so it was really hard. I wasn't able to sit down with him like I did with the other two. Like, I literally got blocks where I could feel the letters to teach my kids the alphabet, or the little letters that go on the refrigerator, the little magnets. And that's how I would go over the alphabets with my kids, because I can, you know, feel them. Hold on, I'm just checking. Okay. Alright. Damn, I've been on a long time. I'm sorry, people. I'll wrap it up soon. During this time that we were homeless, I was constantly making calls. You know, we would drop the kids off at school. We would be in the car most of our day, most of our night, most of the time we'd be in the car. We would sleep at either a hotel or my cousin's house, one night at my niece's. The hotels that the welfare would give us was very, 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 very low budget and terrible, and like not anywhere I'd want to take my kids. And I just hate that people have to go through that even today. I understand homelessness, and I hate it, and just wish that more could be done for people who are homeless. So, oh man, during that time, I'm just constantly on the phone, trying to figure out something. And in March, we're sitting in the car, and I'm just so stressed out and trying to talk to so many people, because the requirements out here in California are ridiculous. You have to make 3 times the amount of rent, and they want first and last and security most of the time. And so I wasn't making 3 times the rent for anything. Like, literally, that was just insane. So finally we found this place. which is a government tax building. You can't make above a certain amount and you can't make below a certain amount. Hold on. Let's fast forward back to 2014. Rewind. At the end of 2014, I reached out online for help with my kids for Christmas because we were struggling then, like basically only paying bills, and I wanted to give my kids a good Christmas. And it's something I had never did before because I have trouble asking for help. I try to do things on my own, and that's not always a good thing. But I reached out online in a group in Facebook, and that's where I met a friend of mine. I hope he's okay with me saying it. I'll just say his first name, Lionel. And he reached out to me on that post, and oh man, such a small world. Like, it seems like everybody knows everybody in Palmdale. I'll get to that too with the travel company. There's so much I want to share, because that's also where. All right, so he had helped us with presents and different things for the kids, and a couple of people reached out, and so we remained friends. And he's been a blessing to our family. He helped out a lot. And he wouldn't want to be called out for that. But I'm thankful. And this is my story. When we were homeless, when we had to leave that night, we were supposed to go over to my sister's house in 2016. But we got there and her door was closed. I couldn't get a hold of her. It was nighttime and we had all our stuff in the car, and Lionel was helping us, and everything was in his truck. He had already helped us move the stuff out of the house with my, aunt and uncle at the time, who stayed with us for a little bit. And later on that night, she didn't come to find out. I guess it's because I had cats. She didn't want the cats there. Plus there was checks being, like she had to have her house, I don't know, how do you call it? Where they come check your house. What's it called? Inspection. There we go. Because she was renting as well. And so she had to have inspection. She couldn't have people there, whatever. So she didn't let us in. And so we're sitting there, and Lionel sat in the car with my I was still at the house with the kids. And he sat there until probably 3 in the morning. And he's all, don't worry about it. I'll just take this stuff back to my house. We'll, do this again tomorrow. And he did. And so what happened was I called my cousin who lives here, Priscilla. And she's like, I told you you could come here. But, for many reasons I didn't want to. And it's nothing personal. But she also had her own situation going there. And, she has 5 girls. And so anyways, we ended up putting our stuff there in her garage. We stayed there minimally, though. You don't exactly feel welcome in other people's homes, especially in this situation. And it's not that she didn't make us feel welcome. It's just, a vibe you get sometimes. And it's not that they were making us feel any type of way. It was just, here we are, a family of 5 at this point, like coming in, and she already has her 5 girls. So we tried to be there as little as possible, and slept there occasionally. And then my cats, they were in like a couple of days in cat carriers, and she didn't want us to let them out, which I respect that. But I found a cat hotel for them, so then I had to pay for that monthly. And my dogs, my friend Lionel held on to for us because he offered, and I'm grateful for that because I don't know what I would have done. Like, I would have had to get rid of them. So these little dogs, though, literally had to, they're so bad. Like, he had his own dogs at the time. He had Broly, which was a humongous dog, just beautiful, gorgeous, and a couple other little dogs. And my dogs were mean. They tried to fight, even with, I mean, this dog was massive. He was, I forget the type of dog, like a English Bull Mastiff and no, that's not it. I don't know, but 180 pounds. And he knew I couldn't see. And it was just really interesting. Such a smart dog. Like, you could tell him anything and he would do it. But anyway, he took my dogs and they escaped I don't know how many times from his yard. And he worked 2 jobs, so he was very busy. He's a nurse as well, and he tried, and they just kept escaping. And the crazy thing is, they would always be together, these dogs. Like, how is it they get out and they're always found together? So finally, I ended up taking Chunky, which is the bigger dog, and then Cookie went to this lady who actually, when she got out, the lady got her. And one of the times Lionel had to get them out of the pound, and he paid for that and for them to come out of the pound. And I'm so grateful to him for all of that stuff, because that's all a choice. So Cookie stayed with a lady named Lori, beautiful woman, so sweet. She had horses. She had, like, I don't know, a nice big place where she could keep animals. And she loves Cookie. And she said her dad, who was elderly, extremely loved Cookie because she would sit in his lap or next to him and keep him company. So she held on to Cookie for me for the duration of us being homeless, and I held on to Chunky. And Chunky was so afraid of being at my cousin's house. She would literally stay on her little bed because my cousin didn't want her, walking around and possibly peeing, although my dogs did not pee inside. They just didn't do that. So in April of, I think it was April 2017, we found this place and we moved in. And it was just a really rough time being homeless like that. That year was rough in general. So September of that year, my son was in kindergarten. He had to repeat kindergarten because of the rough year we had. And in kindergarten, we met this teacher, Jennifer Parks. Beautiful soul. May she rest in peace. Man, it's hard. This is hard. I started volunteering at the school because of her. She was very non-judgmental. She didn't see me for my blindness. She saw me for Cecilia. I started volunteering at the school. She's like, because I asked her, I want to volunteer. So I got my badge. I got my TB test and everything, my ID and all that to volunteer with the kids. As you all know, I love kids and they're my world. That's why I want to be a social worker and going to school for that. Well, I will be continuing school for that. I'm not currently enrolled because I have to I am taking care of a few things. So her and I actually, she just was I'm not just saying this, she was just a beautiful soul. Like, seriously, she was so cool. She was hilarious. She was good with kids. My son loved going to school because of her. So in August, she told me, I'm sorry to say, but your son's going to have to repeat kindergarten. His reading is behind. This is, she's telling me about everything. And I was like, oh no, I don't want this. I was telling her I really don't want to hold him back. She's like, no, but in the long run, if you let him proceed, it would be holding him back because he's not where he should be at, which I felt totally to blame for because we were homeless and I wasn't able to study with him the way I did with the other two. So she's like, no, don't even worry, it's okay. He's only this old now. Let's get him caught up. And I was like, all right, are you going to be his teacher again? She's like, yes, he's all mine. So I'm like, cool, I'm good with that. So it was going on 2 years that I've known her. And in October of that year, she, oh man, let me back up a little. She loved her coffee. So we all know that she was my favorite person in the world. She would go to school every day. Like, even if she was late, she was running with her coffee. She was so, like, some people just have a gift when it comes to kids, because even kids that graduated from her class, the second and third graders, if they were, being a little bit much, she would go and talk to them and say, like, what is it we're doing? And they would listen to her. Like, she just had something really special with kids. So in October of that year, October 1st, she was a victim of the Las Vegas mass shooting. And so we had already lost 3 people in a matter of 11 months. We lost my grandma in December, my cousin in March, and Mrs. Parks in September. The reason this is so hard for me is because not only was she such a wonderful person, but because it was the hardest thing I had to tell my son. For someone to be taken so violently like that. So I'm sitting in the car that day. I knew, I remember the shooting the night before. And I remember thinking of her because we knew she was going to go out there. She loved country music and she was so happy about going to that concert. And Thursday night of that, before it happened, she told Aiden she wasn't going to be there Friday. So Aiden was like, I'm not going to school. I don't want to go to school if she's not going to be there. Hold on. So it's like, you gotta go to school, dude, She'll be back next week. And, he... don't know, Mommy, but I need her there. And so anyway, he was always attached to her. Like, if she was absent, he would literally go in the office and ask, when is she coming back? Where's Mrs. Parks, So, Monday morning, the school calls. The kids are at school. And I hear something weird in her voice, and she's like, hi, how are you, Miss Padilla? Already my heart started racing because I just knew. And she was like, the shooting last night. All she said was her name. And I was like, no, I just screamed no, you know. And she was like, yeah. That was super hard. So later on, we go to pick up the kids. And the older kids get in first. Juliana is my niece, and she, you know, they all went to the same school. And she opens the car door, and she's like, you know, Mrs. Parks is gone. I said, I know. So, I mean, they didn't announce it to the school, but somehow someone heard it and got around to the kids, and Aiden comes to the car and he says, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He comes to the car and he's like, Mommy, is Mrs. Parks okay? And I didn't know how to answer. He had already been through so much. So little, you know. Starting school, being homeless, losing his grandmother, his cousin. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to gather myself here. So, I know I look ugly when I cry. I'm sorry. He gets in the car, and he's like, is she gone? And I said, baby, I don't know. I lied to him because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. And I don't think it was in the right way, but I didn't know how to handle it. And he's like, call her later, okay? Just call her and make sure she's okay. I was like, okay. So we get to my little niece's house, who lives like right by the school, to drop off my other little niece and nephew. And Aiden's worried about her still, and he's crying. He's crying in the backseat. Because someone had said it. Someone had said it in school. He didn't, or I don't know who said it, but later on that night, he just kept asking. He's like, please call her. I had to tell him. And I sat in the bed with him and I said, because he kept asking me, he's like, hey, did you call her? And I said, you know how, and I don't know if this was the right way either, I said, you know how Grandma Nana, he called her, and I said, you know how Brandon went to heaven? He's like, no. He was like, no, and he just started crying. And he was like, I need her. I'm telling you, he got really close to her. Like, extremely close to her. I mean, how could you not? You know, I adored that lady too, because she always welcomed me to volunteer. She was good to my son. She was good to all kids. And she was genuine. She didn't judge me like I felt a lot of the other people did at that school, and even in the PTA. I felt very judged and stuff during that time for many reasons. But anyway, my son had nightmares. He would wake up crying. It was a really rough time. And I couldn't even imagine for her family, so I hate even saying this, but during that time too, when I was homeless, I had signed up for school to start my social work journey, and I had got in, and I passed my English class. I had taken just 3 classes at the time because a lot was going on. I took English class, I took child and family education, and I took that's HD, what is it called? Human development or something like that. My child and family education class, she failed me even though I did a lot of my work. I did miss a lot of days because this happened in October, and this school year was actually compressed into 12 weeks instead of 16 weeks, a normal semester. A lot of the activities she had were very visual, and she really didn't accommodate. If she did attempt, it was very slight, and I think she's a great person, but I wouldn't want her as a professor again. There was this last huge project, which I loved that class, you guys. I love kids. I loved everything about it. I had 3 kids, so it's like a lot of the development stages I've seen. My kids are all 3 different people, different learning styles. You learn about so much in the child and family development or education courses, and I'm going to look at the comments really quick. Hold on. I'm sure I missed so many. I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on, I'm just going over the comments. Hi, Georgina. Sorry to whoever I didn't say hello to. You're welcome in darkness. Thanks for listening. Thank you. I'm sorry for being so emotional. Well, excuse me for it. I'm not sorry for it. She was an amazing person. So let's see. There was this last project. There were 2 big projects. There was one called the Sunburst Project, which I have to give the credit. My ex helped with some of the visual part of it. Surprisingly, that was done. And on the sunburst, you had to go off of sun rays, and each ray had different categories, and then you had to go under sort of subcategories and list what kids need, or what kids, different things about the developmental stages, and just all of this visual stuff. Then there was another project. Well, the knowledge, the information wasn't visual, so I was able to do that. But as far as the drawing and the stuff like that, I was obviously not able to do. But there was another project that was totally visual, and she marked me off for that. And it just, I had asked for an alternative, and they're supposed to give a notice or something, so you can take that to the disabilities office, and they can help you to maybe find another way to make the stuff accessible, to make the material accessible. Well, that didn't happen, so she failed me. And then I'm not sure why my HD professor failed me. I can't remember. I think it was because I missed so much, but I had all my work in. And I passed my English class, and I loved my English class too. That professor was super cool. Professor Spurgeon, you're awesome. But I will be returning. It's just during that time I was homeless and still going to school, as well as the 2 losses in my family. it was a lot to juggle. It really was. And trying to piece together the money on my own to get this place. I was saving the money, obviously of the income, but I was also paying my cousin. Even though we didn't stay there much, I still, right is right. And let's see, so yeah, we're still here to this day. We're in this little apartment, which I'd like to move out of. I want a house. I want to move my kids back into a home. And I forgot to tell you that part. So we went to court when we had to move out of that house, and the last day, they didn't show up. The landlords did not show up, and it turns out they didn't sell the house. They ended up renting the house for only $200 more. They wanted $500 more from me, but they wanted $200 more. The neighbors that were supposedly friends of ours moved in. They didn't even have it was just them two, They didn't even have kids. And they moved into this 4-bedroom house, and it's not their fault, but I just think of all those things. If the landlord would have asked me for $200 more, I would have found a way to pay $200 more, because that would have only been $1,500 a month for a 4-bedroom. There's so much I've left out. There's so much I want to say, so much more I want to say. So much more. But I've had my struggles. We all have, and there's so much more that I haven't even discussed. And good times, I adore my dad. My dad we lost when I was 28. In 2010, and he was amazing. Like literally, he overcame drug use. He was on heroin when we were babies, and my mom said, "You either choose us or the drug," and she wasn't playing, and he chose us. He went through withdrawals. He completely healed on his own and overcame, and I'm proud of my dad. And he had a few hiccups after that, like when he was drinking. He had flipped the car. He never hurt anyone else. Let me make that clear. My dad, everybody loved my dad. He was like a hippie, but hardcore. He was all of that, like a biker as well as just this huge-hearted person. Like huge heart, like he loved animals. He loved kids. He was there for his family, and I mean there for his family. Loyalty. That's where I learned loyalty and integrity from, was my dad. My mom too, but when you learn from, her too. However, my dad didn't care. Like, if he loved you, he was always real with you. Whether you were wrong or right, he let you know. But everybody loved him, from the sweetest little lady on the block to the hardcore gangster, whoever. Everybody loved my dad because my dad showed everyone respect. My dad didn't judge. He was a fair man. Good heart. Definitely family first with him. He overcame a lot. He survived 5 heart attacks, 2 of which were major. He had to have open heart surgery. He had to have a quadruple bypass, which he survived. And by the end of it, it was the cancer and he had a lot of different illnesses as well. But he fought. He was a fighter to the end, and he was always so positive. Like, if you ask my dad, how you doing? Oh, so-so. On his bad days. And I'm talking when he was in pain or whatever. So-so, or I could be better. But, or I've been better. But always positive. And all I needed to feel okay was to sit next to him. So even when I was going through things in my relationship, or going through things at school, or going through things, all I needed to do was sit by him. And it just took the pain away. So I used to yell at him for drinking beers. Like I said, one time he flipped the car, and he didn't hurt anyone. But he ended up in jail for that for like 2 weeks, and he was already having heart complications, and they mistreated him in jail. They did not give him his heart medications. He could have died. They didn't care. They didn't give a shit, because a lot of times in jail they don't treat you right. I believe you're still a person. You still should be treated fairly and like a human being. And I'm not talking about for murderers or rapists, by the way, but for people who have only hurt themselves, and for people who shouldn't even be in jail. They shouldn't be treated like that. So anyways, that didn't happen again, and he was just a good man all around. He cared. He was very sensitive when it came to his girls. He would always talk about his first, my sister Monique. That was his first, his baby. But he loved me too. It's all good. He never could wait to give presents, like big presents that we were super excited about. One year I wanted Lion King, and he was supposed to wait for, that's my all-time favorite, Lion King. He was supposed to wait for Christmas to give it to us. But he didn't. He called me in the room one day. He's like, I have something for you. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, she failed to accommodate me, and I failed the class, and it hurts. I blamed myself, like I did with a lot of things for a long time, which I barely stopped doing, because I would blame myself for everything. Well, I'm just reading the comments really quick. Okay. Where was I? My dad. Lion King. So I go in the room. He's like, he pulls out. It was VHS. Yes, it was a video. And he pulls it out, and he like, I got you Lion King. I was like, oh my God. I'm screaming and ran into his arms. And I was just super happy. And we watched that video so much to the point where the tape was run down. Like, to this day, I watch Lion King, and I just love it, because if you really look at that movie, there's so many lessons out of it. It's not just a kid's movie. Like, if you really look at that movie, there's so many messages in Lion King, from loyalty to family to betrayal, even by family, to, just a lot that I got out of there. So I know the lines front to back, and Mufasa reminds me of my dad. And because there's a part where he says, no one messes with your dad. My dad used to always say that part, but he always used to say that in general. And it's true. It's true. But yeah, he had to buy me that video again, because I wore it out. Like, knew every song, still do. Like the one part in what's it called? Can You Feel the Love? I love the part where she's like, he's holding back, he's hiding from what I can't decide. Why won't he be the king I know he is? That part. I love that part. And so after that, what happened? Yeah, he even, we had a best friend in the building at the time. This is when we lived in Hollywood. We lived on Sunset Boulevard for a while, because Bobby, our family friend, she moved back to Alabama now, but that's where she lived, and so we lived there. He had a friend named Hank there, and we got him an iron, and Hank needed a new iron so bad. And Hank celebrated Hanukkah, but he celebrated Christmas with us too. We got really close with him. So my dad gave it to him before Hanukkah, before Christmas. My mom's like, why do you do that? And he just never could. He was so excited about giving it to him because Hank wanted a new iron so bad. And so, yeah, I'll never forget that. I'm just reading the comments. I don't know. I hope I'm not missing any. Seems like there was more after that. Okay. Let's see. There's too much to talk about. There's way too much, and I feel like I've left stuff out. I've always loved singing from the age of 4. So I have my uncle Nini, Uncle Ernie, my mom's brother, always encouraged me to sing. When I was 4 years old, well, he already had his stuff set up, like a little studio in the back. He had like a shed with his studio. He was an artist of all trades, like a singer, he plays a guitar, he paints, and I mean paints his ass off. Like, he sold his paintings in swap meets and things like that, but he did airbrush, oil paintings, he can draw anything by hand. Literally, this guy is an amazing artist and should have been in Disney or Warner Brothers or whatever, but he was so screwed over by his friends because he was really talented. They saw his portfolio and probably used it because they work at these big places now, but my uncle doesn't, and it should have been him because literally not only is he the most talented person, one of the most talented people I know, but he's also extremely intelligent with so many ideas and knowledge. And my Uncle Ernie is just, he deserved, a place in Disney or wherever, because I know it would have been so amazing. Like, the characters he could have come up with, the drawings he could have made. He's a computer whiz. He cooks. He does so much that he's skilled and talented at. Anyway, he had a microphone, and when I was 4, he took me in there and he would put on Sade. And that's when I started liking singing. If it wasn't Sade, it was Michael Jackson. And I believe that's where my love for R&B started, because I truly love R&B. Like, that's what connects with me and my soul. That's what I feel. I love all music because my dad, his favorite was the Beatles. He liked Rolling Stones. He liked Black Sabbath. He had a huge variety. He liked, the Styx, his Elton John. Oh my God, the Commodores, Lionel Richie. My dad had such a huge variety of music that he loved. What is that one called? Steely Dan? I think that's the name of the group. So much. So I grew up with all types of music, but R&B and hip-hop is what connected with me. It made me feel... Hip-hop made me feel confident and strong in some rap. Like Tupac, I loved. I grew up with Ice Cube, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Biggie, all of them. Grew up listening to them, and Tupac was my favorite and first crush, celebrity-wise. And just like what I told you I'm drawn to in men is strength and some intellect, and Tupac was a poet, and he was really fascinating to me, and I adored him before he passed away, and that was just so unfortunate. But anyways, music was my life, and I do thank my Uncle Ernie for that, because that and my Uncle Charles used to sing with me all the time. Uncle Charles was the one that I, to this day, like, I could just be myself with, and he loves all his nieces and nephews, and he was the one that would, have little slumber parties with us, they always loved telling scary stories, and, even when I was losing my sight, he would draw with me, because I used to love to color, so I couldn't see, so he would help me, he would show me where the lines were, so I could still color, I could still draw. Santana. My dad loved Santana. I love that guitar. He used to always say he makes that guitar scream. And my dad, when he would listen to music, he would pretend like he was playing the guitar or whatever. And him and my mom's song is That Always and Forever by Heatwave. I think it's Heatwave. And he would always turn that song up and sing it, like in the car or whatever. My dad always had music around too. He would have those big speakers, like as tall as me at the time. Well, I'm not very tall, but yeah, they're huge. And he would always have sound systems like hooked up, because he loved surround sound. He loved music, or hearing a good, watching a good movie on, with that sound going. So, my uncle, he would literally have me singing in there, and I loved it. And that's where I love singing. Now, I was always shy. Now I'm not as shy. Of course, I get a little bit shy, but whatever. I don't know what my insecurities were then. Now it's probably my teeth and my, I hate that my eyes move so much, but I'm not like super self-conscious about that as much anymore, because it is what it is. I can't do anything about that. It's not a choice. But yeah, I would sing, and then when I was about 21, my son was 2, Akira. I had found this, I don't know how I did it, but I found this studio, and this guy that worked for Embassy Studios, he actually worked with a group called 702 at the time, and with someone from B2K. Was it a Marion? I can't remember. But I went in and I sang Aaliyah, the one I gave my heart to, and he's like, yep, I definitely want to help you. I felt like it wasn't my best, but he wanted to help me. He's like, he tried to give me a killer deal too, and I just didn't have the money. He offered like $500. He said people would sit with me and we would do some songwriting. He wanted to work with me. He was totally open. I'll never forget him, and I wish I had the money at the time. A lot of things boil down to money, and it's just so sad. And I wanted that so bad, but I'll never forget him. He was so open. He had like plaques on his walls and everything, awards of being, from being a good producer. And so that opportunity passed. Then there was this other thing where I went for modeling, probably around the same age, maybe a little, I don't know, around there. And she wanted to help me. I went to John Robert Powers. It was a modeling school, an agency, and she wanted to put me on already, like right away. And she was just like, all you need to do is go to a store, get a $2,000 dress, put it on a charge card, excuse me, and you can, my coffee's cold. I'm gonna have to make another cup, y'all. She's like, all you have to do is go get a dress, about $2,000, and then take it back. I said, I don't have money like that, and I don't have any cards like that. I never had, checking comments. Hold on one second. Okay, just making sure I'm not missing anyone's comments. I'm sorry. So anyways, by that time, I had taken pictures, and I gave her my pictures and everything. She wanted to work with me, but I wasn't able to do what they wanted, which was get expensive clothes and just all this stuff. I mean, here I am, like 21 years old, and have my little one, and I didn't have money like that. I didn't have a job. And so that opportunity passed. I really wish that I would have handled things differently or found a way somehow. And it's not like I didn't try. It's just, when you barely have $5 even now these days, how can you come up with $2,000? You know what I mean? So that happened. Rewinding back a little, in high school, I don't know why I'm telling all of this, but I took gymnastics for a while. I loved it. I love the balance beam, the uneven bars, the vaults, and no, I wasn't scared of not being able to see. I loved the balance beam, was my favorite. And I used to love doing shooting stars off the uneven bars. So fun. I remember my mom picking me up after gymnastics, going to get like a huge unhealthy, like, I don't know, Jack in the Box or something, McDonald's meal, because I was so hungry. And I remember the days of my dad picking me up after school and us going to the liquor store, and he'd get me like beef jerky or some Mexican candy, some saladitos, or some chicharrones. I don't eat those anymore, but damn, they were good. Or I'd get one of these huge, like those 7-Eleven hot dogs, you know. I can't believe I used to eat that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good times listening to Dr. Dre on the way home, and or Tupac. My dad liked Tupac a lot. Like, who didn't? But anyway, my dad was cool. I'm telling you, my dad was so cool. And then I volunteered at an equestrian center for a year. I volunteered at a horse place where disabled people would ride, so I would get the horses ready. I learned how to clean the horses' hooves. I learned how to saddle them, how to put the bits on, how to, their reins, everything. I love riding. Like, absolutely love riding. In fact, I need to do that soon when I can. Hopefully COVID doesn't restrict that, but I used to love riding so much. It was just like a freedom. And how I did it is the lady that worked there, the owner of the place, she would direct me on which way to go, or I could, follow the other horses. But I was really good with my ear and just following. One day, Chiquita, this humongous quarter horse, humongous, and her name was Chiquita, which means chiquita, which is small in Spanish. But she was humongous, like huge. She got spooked by a car when I was on her back, and she bucked, like completely bucked, and I just held on to her, and I was trying to calm her down and rubbing her neck and telling her it's okay and trying to make her stop running. And I did. And the lady came up to me, the owner, and she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, is she okay? I'm fine. Like, I knew how to hold on. Thankfully, I didn't go flying off, but I just stayed calm, and it calmed her down. I was more concerned about my horse than anything else. And she was just like, "You really should be doing this on a regular, and you're a natural," and blah, blah, blah. And I loved that. I love animals in general, but horses, there's some beauty and a calmness too. And I just adore them. I'm probably going to look into volunteering, seeing if I can help out somewhere with horses, because truly I love them. There were two main horses I would ride, either Chiquita, which was a humongous quarter horse, or King. He was I want to say an Arabian. He was a smaller horse. He was black, and he had like this curly fur, which was funny. It was really sweet. But anytime I would come, and my horses would I say they're mine, but they weren't mine. There was this one horse, well, Chiquita, when I would come, she would throw her head up and she would make the horse neigh, like the horse noise when she would see me. And that felt so good. And when I would go up to her, she would put her chin on my shoulder like a hug every time. I loved that so much. So I did that. I did horseback riding. I did take martial arts growing up, some judo, and I love that too. Thought I was a Power Ranger, I just always tried to be active. I've always been into fitness, even to this day. Like, I'm hard on myself. Like yesterday, I started working out again a couple of weeks ago. Yesterday, my first time I was hardcore on the elliptical for a while. But yeah, there's so much more I want to say, but I think that's enough for now. I've kept you guys for such a long time. I am making and selling gemstone bracelets. They each have meanings. They're very deep to me, very spiritual. But if you'd like any, please let me know. There's a few people that put in orders yesterday. Thank you so much. It's an honor to make the bracelets. They mean so much more to me than just a bracelet. But if you'd like more information, please email me at starlitgems1@gmail.com. That's .com. Starlit, StarlitGems1@gmail.com. Starlit with an I, gems, GEMS1@gmail.com, to let me know if you're interested, what kind of stones you like. My bracelets, I will tell you now, start at $30. Depending on the stones. I also have charms. And if you don't know of what meanings or healing properties that you're interested in, that the stones are, then you can also tell me what colors you'd like, or, we can talk about what you would like. So also know your wrist size, or the wrist size of the people that you're getting the bracelets for. And there's more of my story I'd love to share, a whole lot more. So maybe there'll be a part 2 to this, because there really is a lot more, like good and hard times, and I'd like to talk about it. So like, share, and subscribe. Please go to my YouTube at youtube.com/starlitsoul, Starlit with an I, soul, SOUL. And thank you all for being here. And if you guys have any topics or anything, please let me know, because I'd love to cover them. I will be doing Starlit Fridays, where I'll have two special guests on. Sometimes maybe, well, if Whistler wants to, he'll co-host. But there definitely will be Starlit Fridays where I will try to have a guest on each Friday. If not, we'll have some sort of topic. I also want to start like maybe a topic Tuesday where we can talk about anything, and just chat it out about whatever. But please tune in, Starlit Fridays. Hoping to have a guest this week, hopefully. But yeah, thank you all for being here, for listening to me for all this time. I didn't expect for it to go this long. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you all for being here, and spread love.